Hey you guys, Trey Vittetoe here, and today I want to talk about low end. I want to talk about how it impacts your final master. You know, these days we're trying to fight for max volume and everything. We want to make sure that everything that comes out of our studio really competes with everything else out there. And sometimes it's the cumulative low end happening on various tracks in our mix that really isn't even necessary and is impeding our ability to really get our max volume, really get kind of our max impact with our track. So I'm going to take a few minutes to show you some places in your track that you probably already know you need to control and tighten up your low end. I'm going to show you some of the ways I do it, but I'm also going to show you some things that you may not even be looking for, tracks that you may not even be thinking about where there's a lot of low end, and how putting a high pass filter on some of those tracks can really help conserve that space down in the low end. All right, here we go. Okay, so I featured this track a few weeks ago on when I was showing I think vocal chops. It's finished. I'm not going to play a lot of it because I don't believe this client is ready for the release yet, so I don't want to get this too much out there. But I do want to show you a few of the tricks that I did in it. So I'm going to play you just a little bit, but I'm going to take the vocals out so I don't give anything away from my client. Okay, let me talk first of all about the kick. There's a lot of great videos out there showing you what you can do with your kick to help tighten it up. I tried a kick out of a plugin called Kick 2. I really liked the overall tone and feel, but I didn't necessarily feel like it punched the way I wanted to, so I did quite a bit of work on it. With Kick 2, you get a sort of an 808 type of kick, and then you get a click layer. This is what came out of Kick 2 before I processed it in any way. Okay, so the first thing I want to show you, it's called the VOG. It's a UA plugin. It's kind of got a bell curve frequency boost in the low end. Now it's pretty subtle, so I'm going to crank it up just so you can hear what's going on with that. Now the next thing I did on this kick was I brought in an EQ with the idea of rolling off the low end and then applying just a little notch where I need a little bit more emphasis. So it's definitely getting rid of some of the low end. It's giving a little bit more punch up there in that 105 range. So that really does tighten up the kick nicely. And of course, I've talked about this before, but if you're not side chaining your bass, a lot of times just getting all those low frequencies out of the way, it's going to really make your mix feel much more solid, much more tight on the low end. So this is my bass. Pretty dirty. Here's the bass by itself, and then I'm going to show you what it feels like with the sidechain on it. I'll bring the sidechain in. And you hear it pulling out of there. Heavy sidechain on this bass. Now let me pull the kick in. Okay, So right there, when that kick hits, the bass is out of the way. So that gives me a ton of space on my low end. If I were letting that bass and kick hit at the same time, it would be defining how loud my mix can go. So getting those two things to collaborate is very important. So I want to show one more standard technique that really needs to happen on your stereo bus. I have a roll-off on the low end. Any EQ will do. This one has a really a solid, clean high pass and low pass, so I really like that. I'm high passing at about 51 hertz. The kick's there, but there's just kind of a general muddiness. Definitely gives it a nice tight end. I'm also giving it a slight push right here, you'll see, right at about 67 hertz. So again, in the sub range, it's just got a slight little peak to help give it a little extra punch there. Very subtle. All right, so let's talk for a minute about some places in your mixes that there is a lot of low end buildup and you may not even be thinking about it. I want to show you how low end can build up on the vocal. When I track a vocal, I always put a little bit of a high pass on it, probably around 60. I don't really want to go above that. What I do find though is that the difference between my raw track and what it looks like after I do my vocal chain in my session, what was an insignificant amount of low end has started to pump back up with compressors and things like that. It starts to really start to have presence again, that low end. So I don't always do this, but once in a while I feel like I need to put a little high pass on my vocal. So let me show you the before and after. I have to show you, and I can't play it because again, this song hasn't been released. I certainly don't want to give away the hook, but I will show you if you'll bear with me. So this is without the high pass. Look at the low end down here. It's not as prominent, obviously, as the mids, but if you look at it, starting at about 167 to 140, I'm really starting to get quite a bit of low end buildup. It's not really audible, but what it is doing is taking up digital space with low end information that's just not vital in any way. On my high pass, I just ran it at about 54 hertz. Okay, did you see it? Look, right about 45 to 70, it starts to ramp down. And that's information, again, down there in the sub region that just really isn't doing any good at all for your overall mix. It will never be something that you are hearing so much, but it will definitely be something that's registering on your stereo bus when you're trying to get that volume. All right, let's look at one more example. Check this. Okay, so again, the guitar is not a place that you necessarily need a lot of sub material, but to get that sound, one of the plugins that I ran was one of my favorite that I talk about quite a bit, Combinaut, which I run this plugin. As soon as I do, it gives me a lot of low end. And so I end up rolling it off for the most part. I rolled it off pretty hot, actually, this time. I ran this off at about 86 hertz. So it doesn't change anything in the character of the guitar. You may not hear it, but in the digital world, it is still there. It's still material. It's real to your system. And you're asking yourself, why can't I get my mix up to compete with those records that are out there on the radio? It's very possible that your biggest problem may be down your low end. In so many cases, there's going to be tracks in your mix that have low end material that is just not doing anything but competing in that sub world digitally in a way that's detrimental to your final mix, detrimental to your master. All right. Hope you guys enjoyed that. Hope you got something out of it. If you did, please like, please subscribe. Tell me if you try it and how it works for you. All right, you guys, until next time.